What's up? What's up? What's up? What's up? It's Monday. It is the beginning of a brand new week. I hope that you all had a great weekend, whether you were social distancing at home or if you were braving the crowds and deciding to get out to a park, to a restaurant, maybe even to a social gathering. But here we are. It is the Monday edition of the Angela Ray Show. And as always, we're going to get started with our Ray of Motivation moment. And our Ray of Motivation moment tonight poses the question, and that is, what are you doing with your product? Now, depending upon where you grew up, that might be a loaded question. But what are you doing with your product? And the product that I'm talking about is you. Oftentimes we will hear people say that they are a product of their environment. However, is it possible to allow your environment to become a product of who you are? I think it is so important for us to not only learn from the people around us, both family, friends, coworkers, and associates, but also to be a teacher as well. And when we are a teacher, when we bring our authentic selves to our environment, to our social circles, our friends, our coworkers, our associates, our family members, then we can allow our environment to become a product of who we are. And that is our Ray of Motivation moment for this Monday edition of the Angela Ray Show. So, tonight, I have a very special guest who's going to be joining us in conversation on the Angela Ray Show. You may have seen him in a number of productions, but you've also probably heard his legendary voice. Fans of the cult classic Hollywood Shuffle will remember him as Batty Boy, but these days he has put the bat wings down and he's also doing some dramatic roles in projects like Bad Boys for Life, Just Mercy, as well as independent short films like The Leap. But those who have been following him for a number of years will recall him as the voice of Clarence, recapping the Young and the Restless update along with All My Children. Please help me welcome Mr. Brad Sanders. Brad, how
Hello.
are you tonight?
How are you, Angela?
I'm doing well, doing well. So excited to speak with the legend
Oh my
tonight.
goodness. Oh my goodness. The legend.
The legend, definitely the legend. I know that I have shared this with you in terms of sometimes almost planning my day around making sure that I did not miss the Clarence update. And it's funny because when I first started listening to it, I remember you were doing the All My Children update.
Hmm.
And for those of you who are not familiar with what I'm talking about, this was a syndicated recapping of soap operas that aired on over 100 radio stations around the country. And so I did not watch All My Children, but let me tell you, the way that you talked about Jesse and Angie, I just had to. I mean, literally, I never wanted to watch it, but I always wanted to hear the update. And I wasn't quite sure. I don't remember how old I was. I was pretty young, but I wasn't quite sure if you were making this stuff up or if this was really happening on the soap opera. So I remember one day getting a soap opera digest, and I was like, oh, he's really sharing what's happening on the soap, but he's doing it in his own creative way. And oh my gosh, I just thought it was a riot. And then, of course, when you started doing one of my all-time favorite soap operas, The Young and the Restless, it was like, okay, I make sure that I had already saw the show because I wouldn't want to hear any spoilers. But oh my gosh, your take on that was just absolutely just hilarious. So
Aren't you
share with
kind?
the, huh?
Thank you. I said, aren't you kind?
I'm
Thank
telling
you.
you, literally would plan the day around either making sure that in the afternoon I already had my personal radio on, or in the mornings before I left out for school because I was in school at the time.
Yeah, you sitting in the back seat of your mom's car with your little feet dangling off the seat and your
I wasn't
purse.
quite that young, but I appreciate that compliment.
Oh yeah.
So, why don't you share with the listeners? I'm a little bit familiar with the story, but share with the listeners how that came about. How the whole Clarence update came about.
Well, I was doing stand up comedy, and that became part of my act. I was well. First of all, I got hooked on on the soap myself. I got hooked on all my children. A friend of mine took me out. We were out playing golf one day, but he had to cut out after 9 holes so he can get home and watch Miss Kane, Miss Erica Kane on all my children, right?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, Seth McCormick. I was out there with him, and he turned me on to it. But I grew up listening to my mother talking about the stories. You know,
Right.
like oh man, what a day. I keep wanting to say day of the edge of night, edge of night.
Ooh, you went back.
Oh,
You went
I
back.
got the time machine on you. Don't talk to me too long. I'll be in that time machine on you in a minute. Growing up watching my mother on the phone talking to her girlfriend. Yeah, and you know. So I guess that's kind of how I got exposed to soap operas. And
Mm-hmm.
then when a friend of mine told me about it, and I looked at it, and I got into the stories. So I started talking about it on stage, and I came up with this character that I used to see in one of the local bars. His name was Clans,
Mm-hmm.
but Claence.
Uh-huh.
And I just made
No
it
R.
the I dropped the R because Clans sound more hipper.
Okay.
I mean, Clans. Hey, baby, send us the Clans update on the Young Message. Miss Kane was really clowning old boy today. You got to check it out right after this. So I would do that on stage. When I first started doing it, it was so quiet in the room, I thought it was bombing. But
Mm.
what it was, and then I saw women nudging their boyfriends or whoever. They would say, "Yeah, that's what happened. That's what happened." And then one day, I was doing a gig in Dallas at the Comedy Corner, and Tom Joyner came to see my show and invited me to come on his radio show the next morning. And when I did it on the radio show, the phones lit up, and then I was hearing people talking about it all over the city because nobody had seen me, and I could see them and listen to their conversations about how excited they were about the show. And when I went back to
Mm-hmm.
Los Angeles, I ended up getting it on Stevie Wonder's radio station, KJLH. And and then after that, one station after another, and it became, I think the biggest break for the Clarence Update, one of the biggest, the biggest break was Tom Joyner where it started. But um, when I got turned on, I walked into George Taylor Moore's office over at Westwood One radio syndication
Mm-hmm.
company, big time company. I didn't know anything about it. I just walked in there with a cassette and say, "Listen to this." He listened to it. He turned me on to Scott Shannon out of New York. Scott Shannon was on the Z Morning Zoo. Uh,
Okay.
yeah, number one station in New York, which at that time I did not know that how
Mm-hmm.
significant that was. That was the number one market, still is. Well, it goes between New York and LA now, but it was New York. Uh, Z Mornings or KHZQ or something like that. Anyway, he put me on, and the thing blew up from there. And then hey man, you want to be on some more stations? Because yeah, I didn't even know that there were no black features on CHR radio.
Mm.
CHR radio. CHR stands for Contemporary Hit Radio. That means white radio.
Okay.
And urban radio mean black radio.
Right. Okay.
You
Break
know
that
that.
down for us. Break that down for us.
Yeah, break it down. Let me break it down for you. Anyway, here I am on this white station, and the people are loving it. They gave me mad love, and then Scott turned me on to Ross Britton, his boy in Philadelphia, and then John Lander in Dallas, and uh, a place in Tampa, Florida. Anyway, I
Mm-hmm.
ended up getting these stations, so I would listen to the show. I would watch the show,
Mm-hmm.
write my notes about what happened on the show, and then I would call each station and do the show for them. And I was doing it 10 times a day.
Oh
On
wow.
yeah, collect call.
I know that's right.
I
Because that
called
was back
collect.
when we
Well, the
had
first time
long
I did,
distance.
yeah, the first time I did it on Scott's show, he said, "Man, you stop, man. Hey, yeah," yeah," and he started paying me, and so that was cool. And one thing led to another, and then I got on WLS in Los Angeles. And Jerry DeFrancisco called me up. He tracked me down. I was doing a comedy club. I think I was in Virginia Beach at the time, and he asked me, when can you start? So I ended up with New York, Chicago, and LA, and the top three markets. And that's when I attracted the attention of a syndicator, Premier Radio Networks. And Steve Lehman and Tim Kelly came to my house and talked to me about it, and we made a deal.
Mm.
And that's how the Clarence Update became a nationally syndicated program. And
And
I went
it
from there.
eventually made itself to Fayetteville, North Carolina, where I grew up and listened to it on Foxy 99.
Foxy 99.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
What that station sound like? I never heard that station because I was
Fox.
listening out of LA. What was the imaging on that station?
It was at that time, I want to say, because right now it's like young hip hop.
Yeah, but
Um,
what was the drops? Like what was the little bumpers in between the records that let
oh,
you know what
I
station you
switched
were listening
mine
to?
to Foxy 99.
That's what I wanted to
Foxy
ask you.
99. The
That's
Fox
what I was trying to
rocks.
get from you. Yeah.
Yeah,
That
something like that. I
was tough.
vaguely remember.
Okay, okay, I'll let you remember it now. Now go and drop it on me. Come on.
I've
What
switched
station are you
mine.
listening to?
I've switched mine to Foxy 99.
Baby, baby.
Something like that. Something like that.
That's
It's
nice.
been so many years because they've changed it over the years. That's why I was
Yeah,
because there was
thank you.
only one urban station in town, and so I think that was the first one, and then it was the Fox Rocks, and I don't know.
You know
It's
the
been a
first
long
black
time.
radio station in Atlanta?
Is there?
No. Do you know which one was the first black radio station in Atlanta?
I do not.
WERD with Jockey Jack the Rapper Gibson on the air. And I'm not lying either.
So I imagine you did the drops for that station.
No, I did not.
Oh, you didn't? Okay.
That radio station went on the air in 1939. And Jack Gibson was Jockey Jack. He was the star
Mm-hmm.
DJ on there. And he got hooked up with what became known as the original 13. And it was these black DJs from around the country, and they would break all of the black records. That means that they would be the first jock in their market to play the record,
Uh-huh.
and that's how a lot of black records, a lot of Motown records became hits.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
You giving us some history on some things
Oh,
tonight.
we got to have history because media is so important right now. You reaching people with a message,
Mm-hmm.
and back then, one of the things that was so important about the civil rights movement was the availability of black radio and black radio personalities. Like Jackie Jack would get on the air and tell the audience, which he reached all of Black Atlanta. He would tell the people what time the Martin Luther King was having a meeting and where it was going to be. The
Mm.
SCLC. Yeah, radio is very important. And I got hip to this guy. I didn't know anything about him growing up. But after moving here, there's this guy named Ali Pat. He's an Atlanta legend on radio. You should look him up on YouTube.
Okay.
He was crazy. He was like, okay, now imagine this cat back in the 50s, and he's talking to one of his Spartans, one of his radio sponsors, and this white man, white Southern overall wearing white boy, redneck, and they get to arguing with each other. And Ali Packer, you a lie, and I'm gonna call you a lie. When I call a man a lie, I'm ready to fight. Cause you trying to charge my people all this money and you ain't being fair. Oh, now come on, now, Alley Pat. You know I ain't trying to. They had this whole thing
Wow.
going. Oh, it was wild. Oh, okay. Let me park my time machine and get to the present. What you want to talk about?
Yeah. Well, now you talked about how the Clarence, let me take the R out, how the Clarence update started.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm assuming that relationship that you had with Tom Joyner is what made the way for It's Your World.
Oh yeah, it's your world because when Tom, uh, we sat at his house in where were we at? We were in woohoo, Jamaica. And
Oh.
we sat at his house and we put the show together, different elements.
Mm-hmm.
you had this is the Reverend Deacon Dr. Doug, and you had
I
uh,
remember that.
yeah, well, he was there, and Mary Boyce, myself, because I started before Tom got syndicated. I was writing his weekend show on the move, and I started bringing comedians on the show. And I was the first person to put comedians, stand-up comics, on the radio doing bits and stuff. And
Huh.
so, yeah, hmm at that time, on the move, and even before the Tom Joyner show, but on the move, we had more black comics on the air than in living color, and that's
Okay.
because I would find comics. I knew comics because I was in the clubs all the time myself, and they knew me. And I would bring them down there like Tommy Davidson, uh, Rusty Cundiff, Myra J, Roxanne Reese, a lot of comics, a lot of comics.
Mm-hmm.
Ronaldo Ray came down there, um, Robin Harris, but Ronaldo and Robin didn't like doing scripted stuff unless it was on
Uh-oh.
TV and it was making Grand Theft Auto. But anyway, but they came down there, we had a lot of people. Yeah, a lot of comedians, a lot of great talented people, and a lot of that became the talent pool. Many of them became part of the talent pool for It's Your World.
Mm.
Oh, speaking of It's Your World, my world right now. Can't talk to you right now because I'm on with Angela Ray. Yeah,
I love
yeah.
it.
Well, yeah, but It's Your World. Tom wanted to have a soap opera
Mm-hmm.
because, see, I used to when Tom and I, after we met and I started doing the Clarence Update, he
Mm-hmm.
wanted to have a soap opera for his afternoon show in Chicago.
Okay.
So, but he wanted it. He didn't want to use the Clarence character. He wanted something that was just his,
Okay.
something black. That's when I came up with Tyrone.
On the phone
Ty-
with Tyrone.
yeah, but that was Tyrone before it became. See, on the phone with Tyrone. Tyrone originated out of On the Move.
Okay.
Excuse me, because I was writing the show, and every week I came up with this bit called Tyrone's Letters to the Stars, and I would do an open letter to whatever music artist was in the news that week, like when Michael Jackson had his hyperbaric chamber, and Prince was on the album cover just like a girl, and whatever crazy stuff they were doing, and I think who was that burned burned her boyfriend's house down? Was that Left Eye or one of those girl group ladies?
Yeah.
So I would Tyrone's Letter to the Stars, but then the radio stations that were carrying on the move liked the bit, and they wanted to have something 5 days a week. So I started having people send me letters. So I would have to make up the letter about write up all the letters about the stars 5 days a week. I said, well, let's have people call in, and I had an 800 number, have people call in and send me emails, and that's what I did. It was Tyrone's Letter to the Stars. I taught Dr. Field everything he know, and Dear Abby taught me everything I know.
It almost sounds like a very early version of the Strawberry Letter on the Steve Harvey Morning Show.
Excuse me, Strawberry Letter from
Yeah.
Cheryl Strawberry. Where she
Yeah.
get that from?
Well, I said it sounded like an early version. It sounded very similar.
No, it was not the early version of. Mine was first.
Well, okay. That's yeah. That's
Yeah.
that's what I was
I
alluding
know it's
to.
what you meant, but I want to
Yeah.
clarify that distinction.
You want to clear the air, make it
Look here,
clear.
let me tell you something. You can't. First of all, you can't copyright an idea. And number
No, it's
two, I
hard.
didn't invent it. I didn't invent the wheel. You heard of Dear Abby, Amber.
Right. Exactly.
Okay, so I ain't invent that, but
Right.
yeah, I was the first one to bring it to urban radio,
Mm-hmm.
and it was part of, like I said, On the Move, and then it became a standalone nationally syndicated show on its own.
Okay.
So we had Clarence going, we had Tyrone uh, on the phone with Tyrone, and then we had the gospel version of On the Phone with Tyrone.
Okay, I think I missed that one. I
Oh,
don't
you
think I'm
missed that?
familiar.
Oh
I
yeah,
missed that one.
yeah. Well, I'm gonna have to let you hear some of my tapes for some of these days. Let me dig them out. Let me
Yeah,
crank up.
dig
Anybody
them
got
in
a
a
cassette
crate.
player? You got a cassette player?
I do actually. I do. I have more than one. Don't sleep. I have more than one cassette player. That
No,
works.
I got them on MP3. But they
Okay.
started out on cassette.
I was really hoping, I know he's worked a number of years and he definitely deserves his retirement. But I was really hoping before Tom Joyner retired that we
Mhm.
could have had a reunion for It's Your World. I know some of the other voice actors. I did hear them come on like a couple of days, especially Pookie. Um, I think we all love
Oh
Pookie.
yeah.
So I remember hearing Pookie on and doing an interview. But I was
Mhm.
so hoping we would have a reunion of It's Your World and find out where
That'd be
Ed and
nice. You know,
Fontella and Redbone, where they all were.
oh my God. Well, we did have that of sorts because every week he would run old episodes of It's Your World, and he would have some of the people
True.
come on there, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and Leslie Jones was one of our actors. She played Queen Esther Perkins, and
Okay.
yeah, so we did have a reunion. We just didn't have like a big throwdown. Now, what we did
Right.
one time, one of the Sky shows, we did a
Mm-hmm.
live version of this show.
Oh,
Yeah,
see
it was
you.
good. We did a live. We did it like old time radio. Everybody was reading their part. We put up some easels, and then
Mm-hmm.
we did the thing. Yeah, that was Larita Shelby who played Pookie, and she also played Redbone's
Mm-hmm.
girlfriend, Chocolate Child. You remember
Chocolate
her?
child. I remember that.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was just the way you said it. That's what made me remember.
Oh yeah, he was
That's what
young.
made me remember.
Maurice Davis played Redbone, yeah, and
Um, wow.
yeah, she played both of those characters, and she's a very multi-talented person. You'd be surprised, well, you wouldn't be surprised because you're one of them. It's just that there's a lot of wonderful talent who happens to be
Yeah.
black, lot,
Yeah.
and you don't hear you haven't heard of them yet, but you will.
Mm-hmm.
And many of
Mm.
them. I even did a hip hop soap opera called What's Poppin', and that was running
Missed
for a
that one
while.
too.
Hmm?
Yeah.
What did you say?
I said I missed that one too. I missed that
Yeah,
one.
you was in college, then. You was too grown for that kind of stuff.
That's what it was.
I'm
Well,
getting there.
you actually
I'm reaching.
while while we're talking about voiceovers, you have a question from one of our biggest supporters, Mr.
Oh,
Edwin Evans. Can you see that question on the screen?
oh, is your voice a natural talent or have you had formal training? Well, the voice is a gift. It's a natural talent. However, I continue to train. I've taken classes, and I buy the tapes. I read books about voiceovers. Secrets of Voiceover Success is one of those such books, and several other books. But Speak It Clearly is a good program. Uh, I'm sorry, I have never met the lady, but I bought the program, and it is really good about the practical use of your voice, training your intonation and voice placement. Another good book is Arthur Lessac's The uh, Care and Training of the Human Voice.
Mm,
So yeah, what I've done is taken God's gift and just learned as much as I could about it and use these other resources and experiences to develop it more so that I could, just some things like, for instance, when I first started doing the Clarence Update, a man named Leonard Reed, at this time he was 90 something. I don't know. He had been back. He used to run the Apollo Theater in New York. And he was one of the producers of the what did he call it? It wasn't Showtime at the Apollo, but they did a TV show out of the Apollo Theater, and he taught me about breathing. The most important thing about voiceover is breathing. The voice is breath, and how you control your breathing is what gives you power and modulation with your voice. And Leonard Reed had me come in and listen to a woman sing. Her name was Angela Teak, and she sing this long, slow, melodic song. And he said, "Now listen to her and tell me when you hear her breathe." I never did. You ever see people on TV and they gasp between breaths? That's because
Right.
they don't know how to do it. This is, nobody taught them. But I was getting old school knowledge. I mean, this cat was working with Ella Fitzgerald and Lena Horne, so he gave me some of that game. And one of
Mm.
the things, like, whenever you open your mouth at the end of the sentence, you take in air. Air is weightless, so you don't have to go and blah blah blah. You don't have to gasp. It's EAR, 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 EAR. All you have to do is open your mouth. The air comes in, and that powers your next words. So thank you for your question, Mr. Evans. Oh, wait a minute. Did
You
you
got a
make
follow
an
up.
Bold and the Beautiful with Sally Spectra? Show live. Where you get these questions from? You got people calling in here that know stuff.
You have fans. You have fans who
Oh, I
who
appreciate
all of a
it.
sudden now that you're talking about what you did, they're like, "Oh, hold up, I remember him." Cause
Oh,
yeah, Stella Spectra. Oh, I have not heard that name in a while. Sally was.
yeah, they're her niece back now. That on the Bold and the Beautiful, Sally Spectra. Yeah, she was Darlene Conley. Yeah,
Mm,
I
she
have a
was.
picture of me with her on Instagram somewhere down the
Okay,
line. Yeah,
we'll have to go
when
look
I
that one
played
up.
on B&B, I married. I played the minister for Marcus and Daisy's wedding.
Mm, okay. I
Mhm.
I know Ridge and Brooke, and then I know Brooke and Eric, and what was
Yeah,
Stephanie? Because Stephanie was with. It's been
yeah. Brooke
hard for me
had
to keep up
everybody
with the
but the
bold.
mama. She was next.
Pretty. It does seem that way. I mean, Brooke was yeah.
Bro.
She's
Oh, Rich. Oh, Eric. Oh, who's next? I don't know. Do you have a
well the other brother. Doesn't Ridge didn't Ridge have a younger brother? Was it Thorn?
Thorn?
Yeah,
Thorn.
Thorn.
Yeah, Thorn.
Think she even dated. It's I watched the Bold and Beautiful, but not I was not committed to it the way I
Yeah.
was the Young and the Restless. I
Oh,
used
yeah.
to plan my class schedule in college around the Young and the Restless, so I had time in the middle of
Ooh,
the day to
years
go to
back
the
then.
student union to watch the Young and the Restless before heading to my 1 o'clock class.
Yeah, that was cool.
Okay,
I
so
remember
Edwin said it was Thorn. Okay,
it was
okay,
Thorn. Mm-hmm.
I had to think about
Yeah.
that. That's
And
been a
I
while
had one
ago.
show where Brooke and Ridge went up to the top of the hill where the Hollywood sign is.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody had blacked all the letters out except for H.O.
Oh no. Oh no.
Yeah, I mean, straight up. Just straight up. Just a hoe. And everybody know you spell hoe Hoe.
Oh, that's funny. One of my fellow Carolina alums said, yeah, she used to go to the union to watch. Absolutely. That's where there was actually at that time, there were two kind of gatherings in the union. There was one upstairs, and I think that's where people watched the ABC soap operas. And then downstairs near the bowling alley, which I just heard no longer exists,
Oh,
that's where we used to watch the CBS soap operas. And there was a group of us, and you
okay.
didn't know the people, just random folk, random students,
Yeah.
but because you saw them every day, if I missed a day, I'd see someone on campus like, "Hey, you watch your universes, don't you? What happened yesterday? I missed it." I mean, just bonding,
That's it. And
bonding.
that's exactly where the soap opera update was born. My mama did it with her friends. You and your friends did it in school. and
Mm-hmm.
it's word of mouth, and that is an amazing phenomenon to hear people talk about what they like from their
Yeah.
point of view, and
Mm-hmm.
and this the story always takes on the character of the storyteller. That's why the Clarence guy was, he was cool. He was kind of, go down to the
He
joint,
was.
give me a drink. You understand? So I made that, you understand, in the vernacular of my particular people, coming from my point of view. Because
Mm-hmm.
this here type of guy. He kept a knot in his pocket. No, he didn't. He pretended he did. He was kind of broke, but I digress and things.
Right.
But but people could relate to it because it sounded familiar for that time.
Mm-hmm.
As far as
Definitely.
the slang, I would use this, whatever the slang was at the time. That's what I would use in my description.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I
Yeah.
used to call I used to call one of them a garden utensil.
We'll have to
Stick
go
with
back
me.
and listen to some of those. If you
Mm.
all are just joining us, first of all, thank you to everyone who may be catching this on the replay. You're not watching it live. We're having a conversation with a voiceover legend, Mr. Brad Sanders, but he doesn't just do voiceovers. He's also acting in front of the screen. He's also a producer. Obviously, he is a very talented writer, providing content for so many different projects. So I know that most recently you were in Just Mercy, Bad Boys for Life, but the first thing that I remember seeing you in was Hollywood Shuffle. Now, that movie is, I feel, it's a cult classic. I feel like every African
It is.
American actor, no matter when you enter the industry, you need to watch that because it gives you an idea of where the industry was at one time when Robert Townsend, I don't know if you auditioned for it, if he approached you about it, but when you all were making the movie, did you have any idea it would have the impact that it has now had over 20, 30 years later?
No, no, and let me tell you, I didn't audition for that part.
Okay.
I look, here's you just talking about God, but God works things. You just need to just go on and go for the ride, because you ain't gonna try to figure it out. You ain't gonna never catch up with what God is doing. I had bought a tux from John Witherspoon, and Spoon had loaned me his tux, and I had it clean, nice. I said, "Man, I got your tux for you. Let me bring it over to you." He said, "No, don't bring it to the house. Come down to the rehearsal hall in Hollywood while we working. This young brother's doing a show, man. You understand? He's doing the show, Brad Lad, Brad Lad. That's the way he used to call me. Yeah, Brad Lad, Lad, Brad Lad. Yeah, you bring it over here, man. I want you to meet this young brother because he's trying to do some things and we trying to help him. So I went over there, and Robert Townsend was using the rehearsal hall, and he was in there doing his Robert Townsend thing. He had people doing vocal exercises because he's from Chicago too. As a matter of fact, he also went to Second City and studied with a lady named Josephine Frostberg. But anyway, getting back to how I ended up as Batty Boy, I had been on the road, and I think I had gone. I mentioned Virginia Beach, but I think I was in Richmond this time, and it was around Halloween, and I went into a Hallmark store, and they had these Halloweeny beanies. You see that
Okay.
that beanie I had on with the wings?
Yes.
That was mine. I bought that because it was a fun thing. I said I bought that to clown with. I figured I'd get a joke out of it or something on stage, play with it. And
Uh-huh.
so one night I bring Spoon's tuxedo back, and I meet Robert Townsend, and then Spoon told me where they were going to be shooting at a couple of days later. So I said, man, I want to just work with this cat. I knew we weren't going to get paid. We were all working. We were just going, hey, we're going to make this movie happen. Because this
Mm-hmm.
young brother, he's doing his thing. We want to be a part of it. I went down there saying I would pull cable. I would be a runner or whatever. Just
Mm-hmm.
just to do it. I wasn't even looking to get in the movie. I walk in there with the bat beanie on, and it just so happened that Robert Hooks Jr., I think it was supposed to play the character of TV Star. That was the original character's name, TV Star. And,
Oh.
hmm but so he somehow or other he wasn't able to do it. I walked in there with the beanie on, and Robin started. Yeah, Betty boy, Betty boy. But there's a bed in my house. There's a bed in my house. That's the name of the show. There's a bed in my house. You're Betty boy.
Wow.
Yeah, like that. Just off the dome, came up with that character, and I did the Winky Dinky Dogs scene. The spoon in there, yeah, but yeah, but we're gonna have some whole cookie, because those hoes got to eat too. You know what I mean? There's a list. I'm gonna compile a list of my favorite TV lines. Yeah, the other one is,
Yeah.
if you didn't want him dead, why are you leaving here with me? But with a blue dress on anyway. So I do the thing, but they like the character, and
Mm-hmm.
the Goldman Company made a deal with Robert, and they had, they wanted to shoot like that scene. That the only thing that Batty Boy did was the scene with Winky Dinky Dogs, where he comes in there with his entourage and the limo and all that stuff, being all arrogant in Hollywood, and Robert asked him, "How do you tell a good script?" And I said, "Does your character die? Now, then, it's a good script. Good luck, kid." So I leave,
Mm.
right? But what they did is they gave the character backstory. That's where when Batty Boy first comes on camera and
Mm-hmm.
credits, and Batty Boy comes in, "What's all this noise?" And that all that came together. Uh, the Goldman Company made that deal, and they brought everybody back in and paid us.
Oh,
Yeah, they brought
that's
and let me not Carl. His last name will come to me in a second, but that's Keenan Ivory Wayne's work,
oh yeah.
and Carl.
Jerry Curl. That was Jerry Curl in the movie, wasn't
Yeah, he
it?
was Jerry Curl. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, Carl was the producer. He's the one that really hustled out there and made this thing work. I'm looking for something right quick. That's why I got my head down. I'm gonna get because I'm gonna kill myself if I don't get this
You don't
guy
figure out Carl's last
his
name?
proper. Yeah, he got to get his props, man. Carl Craig.
Okay.
Carl Craig. That's his name. Yeah, my man. Carl Craig. That that's that's the unsung. That's the
Oh
untold
yeah.
story in Hollywood shuffle.
Mm.
Okay. Yeah.
Like I said, it's a cult classic, but it just, obviously things have progressed since that movie was made. But,
Mhm.
if you're of a certain age and in the industry, you understand so many of those scenes. He made satire of some very
See,
real scenarios.
you got some great people out here now that's changing the game. The game
Hmm.
don't. The reason the game changed is because the players came into the game like Eva DuVernay, Lena Waithe, and so many other uh, Jenkins, uh, who
Barry
did
Jenkins.
Gary,
Hmm.
yeah, and oh, you got people coming in the game and they bringing money to the table, and these people
Hmm.
uh, out of Atlanta that's coming in here. What's Hardy? What's his name?
Rob Hardy.
Yeah, there you go. Rob Hardy. These people they bringing vehicles to the table and they bringing name recognition. You get guys like Kevin Hart out here working together, and Joey Wells one to right. There's so many people. It's just I can't keep up with all of them sometimes, but the thing that's new and things that changed the game, and like Atlanta, but this young brother out here, oh man. Now you got some people out here and they need to get that stick out there behind, stop hating on these young brothers and sisters. Cause they the business.
The business. Okay. They the business.
They the business. These
Okay.
young people, the names I mentioned, and you know, and who else could find a vehicle for, write a character called Alligator Man? Yeah,
Yeah.
you know, for that comedian brother, the one that like to take guns through the airport. What's that crazy boy name?
Oh, I'm trying to figure out who you talking about now.
Oh, okay, it'll come to me.
I'm trying to remember.
Oh, it'll come to me. Don't worry about it. Somebody
You
out there think about, oh, man, how come I, and I know these people. That's what's killing me. I've been in
yeah.
clubs with them and stuff, and been on, following them on stage, preceding them on stage.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, yeah, as a matter of fact, uh, the one I'm trying to think of that'll come to me in about a second or two. See, when you get a certain age, you start to think about stuff, and then next Tuesday you'll say, "Yeah, Bobby Bailey." It'll happen to you. I'm
Oh,
telling
that's
you.
funny.
It'll happen to you. It'll happen to you. But
You got another question. You see your question on the screen, Brad?
which media platform do you think is more powerful for our people, radio or TV? What's more powerful is whatever the one we're on. TV has a larger audience. Um, the problem with blacks on the radio nowadays is that thanks to the Communications Act of 1996, you no longer have a lot of black owned radio stations. Back when there were many black owned radio stations all over the country, like even after what I was talking about earlier in 1939 with WERD in Atlanta, KPRS in Kansas City, KJLH in at Los Angeles, uh, KDAY in Los Angeles. You have black owned radio stations. With that, the ownership of the radio station was the power. That was the power. But now you have TV One and Bounce and Aspire and one or two other black networks. The black networks are not. Uh, and then you have Oprah Winfrey on. You got Tyler Perry. So the tricky thing about trying to gauge the power and which is what to say which one is more powerful is the one that you have the most control over
Mm.
because you get to decide what goes out to the people and you bring your audience to the table, and once you bring your audience to the table, then you have bargaining power because it's green. Racism will go out the window. Yeah, racism gonna be here. Forget it. It's gonna be. Hey, people kill me. Yeah, racism is over. No, that's not true. But the point is, it ain't gonna change. This streaming show, uh, money talks, and you know what walks. Because when you look at uh, TV One and OWN and the way Tyler Perry made the deal for the banks, and what he did was he went to the network. He said, "Look, tell you what I'm gonna do. You, because they said, well, they're gonna like this show, and blah blah. Everybody got an opinion until you start talking about the money you're gonna bring to the table." Tyler said, "Look, tell me what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna produce 10 episodes of this show. Okay? I'm gonna spend my money. I'm not gonna do no sizzle reel. I'm gonna do 10 full episodes that you can run commercials in. But you got to run it in prime time." And they said, "Okay, cool. We give it a shot. We see how it works." They ain't got nothing to lose. Well, it worked. And that's why Tyler Perry was the only show that I ever heard of had 100 episodes sold in advance. 100 episodes out the gate. That's power. So you
That
can
is
make your
definitely
own.
power.
Yeah, you can make your own decision about which is the most powerful. But that right there is powerful. That's why you got somebody that can buy Fort McPherson. That's why you can say, well, look, I'll tell you what I'm gonna do for this pandemic. Y'all come stay with me for 2 weeks. I'm gonna test you going in. I'm gonna test you every day. We gonna stay here for 2 weeks. And if you ever watch Tyler Perry work, which I have, and I met him before, but we don't know each other. I did to have and have not. I did an off-camera thing where I was the voice of the DA calling up to say we found this cell phone for evidence, and Tyler Perry was over in the room by himself, looking like Rumpelstiltskin, just turning straw into gold. Just sitting at the typewriter by himself. So I'm saying that to say, in 2 weeks, this man might have another 100 shows. You know what I'm saying? That's power. He has power to make the deals. Now we don't know what goes on behind the scenes in terms of who made what deal with whom, but the fact that you have the power to make the deal, because what you're bringing to the table is not your talent as a writer or performer. What you're bringing to the table is eyeballs. You bring in people, and that's the money. Viewers. That's what the advertiser is paying for. Viewers. Any show you've ever seen has a generational, an economic generational a component attached to it. If you go to the club, you go to a comedy club, yeah, you go there to see the comedians, but you're going to buy some drinks and some chicken.
Not chicken.
You go into a black club, if there's food in there, it's gonna be cluck, recognized. And if you go to the comedy act, I mean not the comedy act, but what's the name of that comedy club over there? What's the name of that comedy club over there? The comedy upside, the comedy uptown.
Uptown comedy. Yeah.
Yeah, they changed, they moved from another place. They around here over in Hateville now. But anyway, you're gonna get some drinks, you're gonna get some chicken and some hookah. Some hookah pipes. This thing got a delay. I say something to you, you respond like a news lady. You be like, oh yeah.
I know. I think we're together. I think we are.
Yeah.
Sometimes there's an internet. Sometimes with internet, but yeah, I think we are together. I think we.
Delay.
Yeah.
Like radio.
Oh.
But they have a 5-second delay in radio to cut out the cussing. That's back in the old days. They don't cuss now.
Yeah, do whatever they want to do now. Do whatever they want to do now.
I'm just being a gentleman because you're such a lady.
Well, I appreciate that.
There's a couple of bombs I felt like dropping within the midst of this conversation.
I appreciate you being a gentleman. We're getting ready to start winding up our conversation with actor, producer, writer, voice actor, Mr. Brad Sanders. So if you have any final questions, I'm sure. Oh, it didn't take till Tuesday. It didn't take till Tuesday. Hey, we got it before the broadcast was over.
We got it before the broadcast was over, man. Ginkgo biloba.
I've heard of that. Someone told me about that a few years ago.
Yeah. Sure, Ginkgo. Cat Williams. Now, who else could write a character for Cat Williams but another black person? That was the point of that.
Okay.
To get his name in that conversation.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. He's like, yeah.
Gotcha.
I don't
know. I remember I just remember you talking about the comedian and going through the airport, and I was trying to. I was thinking it was someone else.
I have a penchant for obscure references, so sometimes they don't connect.
I was trying to remember back where we were. What part of the ball? I was like, what part of the ballpark were we in when he went up to bat with that? And I couldn't remember. I couldn't remember.
You know what you look like? You look like you gotta say, Paw Paw, your egg. We'll call you go on in the back, Paw Paw. We'll call you when your egg ready. Go on in the back.
Yeah, like I said, I was trying to remember, like, okay. I remember he
That's,
said it's gonna be next Tuesday when it
that's
comes to
what
him, but I
I
was
love.
like, where were we?
That's what I love about young people, especially the ladies, because they'll be trying to go along with a brother, but they, what the hell is he talking about? Is he having a seizure or what? Do we go? Is he having a stroke? What? And you start thinking about how soon can the ambulance get here?
So I will ask one final question. We haven't had
Okay.
one come in, so I'll ask you one final question. What has been, whether it's film, television, voiceover, something that you created, what has been the project that you've been a part of that you feel has had the greatest impact, not just on your career, but on humanity? Because I feel like that's what we do as entertainers. You know, we
Mhm.
do impact humanity. Sometimes it's just, you know, a great laugh. Sometimes it's through a powerful message. Sometimes it's just through, you know, the images that are on screen. But what project that you've been a part of you think has had the greatest impact on humanity?
Well, I think the one that hasn't aired yet, called The Underground Railroad. And
Okay.
I was in an episode of that directed by Barry Jenkins.
Ooh,
And
is that
that's
the one that Brad Pitt produced? Is Brad Pitt one of the Brad Pitt one of the producers on that project?
There's more than one Underground Railroad project, so I can't
I
really say
know. That's why
because
I
I
was
read the
wondering.
script. I didn't, I didn't see, but I mean, it could have been. It's hard to say,
Okay.
but Barry Jenkins is a tremendous director, and but the story of there's things that I have not seen. There's things in this show, in this story, that have not been explored in even Roots or Harriet Tubman. The part of how the medical shenanigans
Mm-hmm.
impact Black life. I mean,
Okay.
they deal with some of that, and I'm not going to spoil it. I think it's supposed to come out in the fall,
Okay.
but I think that one is going to have the greatest impact because uh, it's about our history,
Okay.
and we must never, ever forget to trace back our history because we can't remember our history because so much of it is buried. But we must continue to explore our history. Like, you know this show, 1619?
Not familiar with that one.
She's got a podcast. Go and look that up.
It's a podcast. Okay.
It's yeah, but she just won a Pulitzer for her work on this, and I just happened, I get my newspaper off the line, and one Tuesday, I think it was last Tuesday. I think last Tuesday the Pulitzer Prize winners were announced. 1619.
Yeah.
I did a book narration
Okay.
called America, uh, Organized Labor in America and the Black Worker by William S. Foner. And it chronicles the history of labor in America from 1619 to 1981. And through the history of black unionism and black labor, and not just black labor, but labor, it chronicles the history of black men trying to work and trying to take care of their families amid the racism that kept them out of the trade unions and the trade schools for the most part, and how they had to overcome that,
Okay.
how they fought to overcome that. So yeah,
Mm-hmm.
historical, anything historical that's true. Now, some of the
Right.
stuff, I love the Tuskegee Airmen. I was really looking forward to that coming out, but they punked out. And I mean, Lucas, they punked out. because they didn't tell the real story, the rest of the story of what happened when those brothers got home. And they came out of the plane after having over 200 missions accompanying aircraft and keeping the enemy from bombing the aircraft carriers without losing not one
Mm-hmm.
plane. But they came back home to the SOS, and I don't mean call for help.
I was very fortunate to meet some former Tuskegee Airmen, maybe about 10 or 15 years ago, and talking to them and hearing their stories were just one of those. It was almost like it was an opportunity that really fell into my lap. I didn't even know that that's what was going to happen that day, that I was going to get a chance to meet them. But they were guest speakers at a coffee shop, and that was
Mm,
during my time when I was working as a part-time journalist. I was covering community news for the city newspaper, and so that was an event that just kind of, it was last minute, kind of fell in my lap. I got a call, can you come? And I was like, really? Tuskegee Airmen? It just so happened that three lived in that town, and the coffee shop owner had access to all three and brought them in for a conversation. So yeah, that is
mm.
definitely
And
that's an
they
amazing
showed up.
story. Yeah, an
They
amazing
showed
story.
up, and it's good. And they need that platform because see, the toughest thing on us as black people is we get bad PR, and that's because we don't control the media. We have
I
access
guess
to the
that goes
media.
back to your point of power when Edwin asked,
Yeah,
which is more powerful, radio or TV. It boils down to whoever is in control of the platform.
yeah, that's what's up.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Well, Brad, I
We
do
ain't
have your
on a downer,
Instagram
Brandon.
scrolling.
Yeah.
No, I was going to say I have your Instagram scrolling at the bottom of the screen. So again,
Oh,
for those of you who are catching us on the replay, you can connect with Brad on his Instagram, and very soon he's going to have some new projects coming out. So I'm sure that Instagram will be one of the places that he will be sharing that news on those projects. So
yeah.
I'm looking forward to hearing. I was trying to get a little bit of the scoop before we went live, but I'm sure maybe off the air, I'll find out some more soon. So
You
uh,
right.
don't see any more. I
You
might
lying.
just a little
You,
bit,
you, you
just
lying not to. Well, let me just say, Angela,
just a
thank
little
you
bit.
so much for having me on as a guest. And shout out to all the Deltas. And I got to come up with another
Oh
song for
yeah,
Delta
thank you.
Blues. I know. I can't do y'all's thing. That's not allowed. But yeah, but my daughter's a Delta from Clark, Atlanta, ladies and gentlemen. Uh,
Okay,
yeah, Sadia Sanders, and she also has a website where she sells wonderful Avon products. So look for
okay,
her, and you can see her on Urban Spinster XO on Instagram, and Sadia Sanders on Avon for Avon. So check her out, and but follow her on Urban Spencer because she talks about the validity of a woman just being her own woman without having to be validated by being married. And not that she doesn't want to be,
mm,
but that is not what defines her. And so I think it's very interesting. Her
okay.
followership is growing, and I think you get a lot out of listening to urbanspencer.com, Urban Spencer XO on Instagram.
I'm gonna have to look her up. Look up my sorority sister. I will definitely have to look her up. Yeah, and I
Dude,
didn't realize she pledged at Clark. So I know quite a few of the Deltas who pledged at Clark. Some of my
She
closest
pledged, she
sorors pledged
pledged
at
off
Clark
campus
University.
because
So yeah, I'll look her up.
she pledged off campus because that year I think they had to make a couple of things go away. But anyway,
Oh,
she
okay,
graduated
all
from
right,
campus.
and okay. All right. Well, Brad, again, thanks so much for taking the time out to have this conversation with us, giving us some of the insight, not only about how the Klans update came up, but definitely how I don't think I was familiar with the story of how you became a part of Hollywood Shuffle, which, like I said, it's for me, it's such an important movie to know about, regardless of when you come into the entertainment industry. It looks very different now. So if you're a new actor in, 2015, 2018, 2020, it looks different. But that movie is definitely one that should be, that people should go back and review. So thanks
Yeah,
for sharing that insight with us. And
you're welcome. And in NWA, that's their favorite movie. And when I did
really,
Barbershop, yeah, when I did Barbershop 3, Ice Cube told me that they would watch Hollywood Shuffle every single day, and they all know every word of
wow. That's what cult classics are. We know the words verbatim, verbatim. We know.
it.
Just like you can say, you ain't got to lie, Craig, and everyone knows what movie you're talking about. Hollywood Shuffle is the same way. It's the same way. All
Yeah.
right. Well, thanks so much for hanging out with us tonight, Brad,
My
and
pleasure.
enjoy the rest of your evening.
Thank you,
All
darling,
right.
and you as well.
Th-
Appreciate you.
Thank you. All right. Again, thanks so much to Mr. Brad Sanders for taking the time out to share with us some jewels that I didn't even know about his career. Well, that wraps up this Monday night edition of the Angela Ray Show. As always, I would love to remind you of Ray of Motivation number 54. Cleaning a mirror will not change the person who is reflected in it. Until next time, I encourage you to go out and be the change. Have a good night.